Hello everybody and welcome back in this new lesson. In the last lesson we saw the course introduction and how cameras are made. Today we are going to go in more detail at a specific part of every camera, I mean the digital sensor. First of all, I want to thank everybody who have seen the previous video, as well as for every comment, and I hope this course will be really useful. But stop rambling and let's crack on. Digital sensor. A digital camera sensor replicates all the photographic film's works. Broadly speaking, a digital or image sensor is an electronic device that allows to transform light into electric current and after into a digital signal, like numbers 1 and 0. So, we can also define it as a digitizer, like a scanner that allows to create a digital copy of a sheet of paper or photograph in our case. There's many types of sensors on the market and camera manufacturers often offer their own version. In some cases, however, some houses sell their sensor to others because of the study, design and construction of a sensor for digital cameras has high costs and not everyone can afford it. What interests us most are the dimension and resolution of a photographic sensor. The dimension of a sensor found in commercial cameras are different, as you can see in the diagram below. The first of the list, the full frame, 36 by 24 mm, comes directly from the size of older SLR photographic films and among commercial cameras. It's currently the largest and best sensor we could have. Actually, there are cameras with even larger sensors, such as medium format or optical benches, but the high cost of these devices relegate them to professional uses or rich people. Anyway, the full-frame sensor has a size of 24 by 36 mm, like the old photography films. So, in modern photography industry, this is the standard images format. After we'll understand the meaning why I say standard image format. Full-frame sensors, like others, are color sensors, so they can record colored images using a Bayer filter. Basically, a Bayer filter is a colored filter put over the pixel sensor in order to capture color information. These colors are red, green and blue. Indeed, this filter is also called RGB filter. You have to consider that every computer system on Earth is based on that system, like the monitor you are watching from or your smartphone. There are many different RGB patterns, but the Bayer pattern is the most used. In nature photography, full-frame sensors are really good, I think the best, but they are more expensive. Lenses are more expensive, and you can't use other format lenses, like APS-C lenses, due to the vignetting issue. So, if you want to start with nature photography, the price is a factor to consider, because it will affect your future choice. But the image made will be easier to edit when you photograph an animal in backlight. Indeed, the dynamic range in full-frame sensors are always really good, and you can use higher ISO values, but it's good when you photograph animals in low light conditions. APS-C sensors are a reduced format of the full-frame sensor, a format however associated with cameras of a certain quality and with a similar structure. There is not a proper size standard, so every company makes their own format, as you saw in the diagram above. Compared to the full-frame sensor, APS-C sensors are smaller of a specific factor, the crop factor. Basically, Sony and Nikon have almost the same crop factor of 1.5 per, instead of Canon that use a crop factor of 1.6 per. The crop factor determines the final image size, so with a 1.5 per crop factor, you can consider, compared to a full-frame sensor, an image 1.5 per bigger. Actually, it's like having a longer focal length. For example, with a full-frame camera using a 300mm lens, you'll have that focal length, 300mm, but with an APS-C sensor, you'll have 450mm using a Sony or Nikon system, and 480mm with a Canon system. This aspect in nature photography is really important, because it allows you to have a more compact system, and always with good quality. In bird photography, Canon systems have been used a lot in past due to its convenient crop factor, but now with higher-res sensor, it's easy to get the same result in post-production, cropping manually. So, longer focal length means bigger animal in your pictures without going too close to animals. A cons of a PSC sensor is a smaller dynamic color range and bigger chromatic noise at higher ISO values. So, in dark light condition, full-frame cameras work better than a PSC cameras. A pros of this system is that you can use full-frame lenses as well. This kind of sensors are smaller than a PSC sensor, and with its own 2-pair crop factor, they basically double the focal length of a lens. Magic does it? So using a 400mm lens, it's like using a 800mm lens in a full-frame system. For first sensor allows to create super compact cameras as well as lenses. And if you don't need or think to photograph in dark light condition, it's a really valid alternative photographic system, mostly for wildlife photography. A cons of this system is the lack of choice. I mean that you can't have the same lens number of the other system, but usually you can buy only a few, mostly for long telephoto lenses. Small sensors are always more used in compact cameras as well as phones. Nowadays, companies make super high-res sensor for their phone, and it's easy to have more than 40 megapixel sensor in a phone. And I have to say that the general image quality is really good, even in low light condition, because of the software. Yes, company to cover the size line. Use better software, sometimes high software, for making awesome pictures with a lot of interesting features. The main problem of this system is that you can't use different lenses, and for nature photography, lenses are vital. So in some situations very useful, but with restricted use cases, and I don't recommend them as a first system for nature photography. Despite the detractors, sensor stabilization are now really suitable, and the most companies have their cameras with in-body image stabilization. Actually, the image stabilization is not new, and Canon in 1995 made the first optical stabilization, so it means that it was in lenses, but the system worked and still works very well because it's specific of a lens and it's specific of that optical system. The cons of the optical stabilization is the cost. A lens with an optical stabilization costs much more than a lens without. Nowadays, companies go for a sensor stabilization, where the main reason is that it works with every lenses, also many lenses, and despite it has less efficiency than an optical stabilization, actually they allow to correct shaking up to 4 or 5 stops. Not bad, eh? In nature photography, an image stabilizer is not compulsory if you shoot with the right shutter speed or if you use a tripod, but often we will be in condition to use handheld our cameras and big telephoto lenses, and in situations like that, an image stabilization is gold. Even a double system, I mean a camera with an in-body image stabilization as well as a lens with an optical stabilization, is much more better, because usually they work all together, giving us much more chance to get better images. Unfortunately, not every brand gives this chance, so it's a thing to evaluate, depending on your kind of photography. Maybe best photography, I recommend an in-body image stabilization, just for having the chance to buy a cheaper telephoto lens that will be stabilized by the camera sensor. In this way, starting with wildlife photography will be easier. Whereas if you don't have money like, I recommend to get cameras and telephoto lenses with image stabilization. Okay guys, also for today is all. I hope it's interesting, and I invite you to write your comments, suggestions and criticism in the comment section below. As I said, the 8 minutes YouTube nature photography course, the first nature photography course on YouTube, is free, and I only ask you to subscribe my channel and give me a like. Furthermore, I want to make a present for everybody, and I decided to make all PDFs free, so you will not have to pay anything. You just have to register on my website at www.giuseppegessa.com, that you'll find in the link in the description below, where you'll be able to download everything. As always, thanks for watching. See you really soon next time. Bye bye.